Welcome, everybody. My name is David McGuire. I'm honored to be here this evening. Thank you for joining us. This is our Indiana Alliance of Black School Educators, our virtual fireside chat titled Legacy of Leadership, Black Excellence in Education and Beyond. We're here with Dr. Pat Payne. I want to thank everybody for joining us here. If you're just now joining us, make sure you share this video with folks. We are going to be on here having an amazing conversation as we get to the latter part of Black History Month, even though it's not the end of Black History, because we all know that Black History is 365 days a year. But as we close out Black History Month, we wanted to make sure we do this live stream. But before we get started again, if you're not sure, Dr. Payne and I are board members of the newly launched again Indiana Alliance of Black School Educators, which is an organization that has a national arm. And Dr. Payne knows that a few years ago, we used to have a booming chapter. And so 2 years ago, the Black
we had a national conference in Indianapolis.
Here, and we'll be back soon. And so some of the Black superintendents came together a few years ago, decided it was time that we relaunched it. And now we're 2 years in, and we're excited for all the events that we've done. So there's plenty of information that you'll share, but if you're interested in learning more, please visit our website at inaspi.org. Again, we'll talk about that later, but we are here with a gem, and we are excited. Again, this is about legacy and leadership and Black excellence in education. And as I mentioned, we're joined by Dr. Pat Payne. And so those tuning in, y'all know who Dr. Payne is, but I would be remiss if I didn't just read a little bit. So Dr. Payne, I'm going to read a little bit of your bio for the folks who may be tuning in from other places and don't know who you are. So, Dr. Payne is an Indianapolis native. She began her employment with the Indianapolis Public Schools back in 1962, following graduating from Indiana University. So she's a IU Hoosier. Taught second grade up until 1987, until when she was appointed to design and direct the IPS Crispus Attucks Center, which comprised of the Office of Multicultural Education and the Crispus Attucks Museum. If you've never been to the museum, do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor and make sure that you check it out. But not only is she Indianapolis native, not only is she a former IPS teacher, but Dr. Payne is an IPS student. Kindergarten through 12th grade, a graduate of Short Ridge High School. My mother also graduated from Short Ridge. I wanted to share that as well. Again, has a bachelor's degree from IU Bloomington, master's degree in administrative license from then IUPUI. We know it now as IU. Were you IU Indianapolis or IU Purdue?
I was at IU Indianapolis.
Okay, IU Indianapolis, but formerly IUPUI.
Yeah.
And then she received an honorary doctorate in humane letters from Martin University, the only predominantly Black university in Indianapolis. Okay.
Right.
Winner of multiple awards, including the Moselle Sanders Drum Major and Justice Award. I can go on and on, but what folks who know Dr. Payne, they know this. One, they know if you care about our babies and you have a question or concern, whether she knows you or not, she's somebody who will definitely support you, has been a stalwart in the work for Black excellence in our city. And when I had this idea, she was the first person to reach out to her, and I shot her an email or text, and without hesitation, she said absolutely. So Dr. Payne, first I want to say thank you.
Well, thank you for honoring me by even asking me to do this. It's definitely an honor.
So I shared your bio a little bit, and I want to pose this question to those listening. Dr. Payne, I would love for you to answer it first. So if you're watching, I want you in the chat, whether you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, drop in, name a Black educator who inspired you. But Dr. Payne, I want to ask you, who inspired you?
There have been so many. There's been like Mary McLeod Bethune. There have been people like, I call him Baba Asa Hilliard, who I was very honored to spend 2 weeks in Kemet with. There are so many right here. Madam C.J. Walker. Now, I didn't know her personally, but her legacy is still touching lives.
Absolutely.
So there are so many. And right now, I have a very young, beautiful superintendent who I am learning so much from, Dr. Alicia Johnson. And just watching her move and watching her leadership is inspiring. So you never get too old to continue to learn.
Never. So as we kind of jump in again, this is about celebrating Black excellence in education and beyond. So I want to ask you, Dr. Payne, what experience shaped your journey in as a leader in the field?
Well, I always got to start with my parents. My parents, not only their work ethic, they demonstrated it and demanded that we follow their lead with work ethic. And when I'm talking about work ethic, I'm talking about a father that had a stand on the city market downtown. He was the only Black stand holder, not the only Black stand holder in life, but he was the only one on that market who had a stand. He sold designer fruit baskets. There were other stand holders who might have been Polish, Italian. There were gypsies. There were all kinds of different cultures there, but he was the only Black one. So you know that he had to experience racism. He had to have, but we never heard a word about that. Now, he might have talked it over with my mother, but never with us. So we followed their example. My mother was a teacher. In fact, most of my aunts and uncles were teachers in IPS because at that time, that's just what you did. My aunt was a principal. So I had so many role models to follow. But also, my journey took me to the Teachers Association also. That was very important in leadership for me. The National Education Association, the ISTA, and the Indianapolis Education Association. I was president of the Indianapolis Education Association. That was one of the most prideful jobs that I have ever had, watching out for the welfare of teachers. But they had so many training opportunities at the national, at the local, and at the state level. And I didn't miss a beat. Billy Barreau, many of you may know her. We were there for every training. Wherever it was, they sent us there. So I have got to give a lot of props to the Teachers Association for all of my experience. I even was head of the National Black Caucus for the NEA. So many experiences. I went to South Africa to represent the National Education Association and talk to the teachers there during apartheid. That was an experience. Maybe one day I'm going to write a book about all this, and I better hurry up. But
please write the book.
Yes, to write the book, because I got a lot to tell, really. I've been quite blessed.
You know, many of us, and I told you this kind of before we got started, I think that's why I'm pushing you to write the book, because so many of us who know you and have the opportunity to sit with you, as you mentioned, the same way that you folks poured into you, you're now the one doing the pouring into, right? And so, but I'd be curious, because we talked about, this is Black History Month, right? Yeah. Even though for us, Black History is all year, and you helped kind of launch the Crispus Attucks Multicultural Museum. I wanted one of you could share with us a moment when Black history or culture inspired your path.
Okay, the first thing that comes to mind was when I walked in. I taught second grade for 25 years. But when I first walked into my second grade classroom, immediately after graduating from IU, of course, at that time, Black teachers taught Black students, white teachers taught white students. I walked into the classroom full of these beautiful, brilliant Black children. So I looked into the textbooks that were in there, looking for pictures, looking for stories that reflected my students. Didn't find a thing except the chapter on slavery. I said, no, no, no. So we say in IPS, we've gone from a moment to a racial equity movement. That was my moment right there. And I know that I was not the first to think like this. My students would not only see reflections of, even though I honor our slave ancestors, they were brilliant also. That is part of our story, but there is so much more. And that is always where they want to start, you see. Not only that, that is also where they're trying to carry us back also.
Say that.
So now that's right. We need to talk about that also. But that started my moment. Anne Marie Byers and I, that's when I met Anne Marie. We went to the school board. We were sitting on the steps. We were demanding that more resources be put into the hands of teachers. That's when my first connection with the Teachers Association. Then I found other like-minded teachers to join me and community members. Well, it wasn't until 1979. Well, remember, this started in 1962. It was not until 1979 that the school board finally approved a resolution for the teaching of Black history in IPS, kindergarten through 12th grade, and infused throughout the entire curriculum. Do you think we sat there and waited till 1979? I don't think so. We developed our own curriculum guide, kindergarten through 12th grade. Teachers, community people came together and developed an amazing curriculum guide that IPS did package and distribute to all teachers. So I would say that is the moment I want to share in terms of Black history inspiring my path.
I love that. So before we got started, y'all, if you're listening again, this is our Fireside chat here, Legacy of Leadership with Dr. Pat Payne. So before we got on, Dr. Payne and I were just catching up, and just in the midst of the conversation, I learned that Dr. Payne's daughter and I are both Centralians. And so if you're not sure what a Centralian is, we are graduates of Central State University.
Yeah.
Dr. I'll say this. I'm a graduate of Pike. I love my time at Pike, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't until I got to Central State when I was truly taught Black history.
That's right.
And not just taught Black history, but I was encouraged. I was pushed. And I was inspired to learn and love and lead in Black history. Yes. And so I had a professor, because, you know, when I was in high school and I told my counselor I was going to be a teacher, he looked at me funny. So that's the story. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But when I got to Central State, we stood up as freshmen. They went around in our freshman English class, which was our first class, and said, what's your name? Where you from? And what do you want to do? And I remember standing up and I said, I'm David McGuire from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I want to be a teacher. And my professor, who turned into a mentor, she looked at me and said, you're not going to be a teacher. You're going to be an educator. Because Black people, we just don't teach, we educate. And it changed my perspective, right? Yes. But it was bigger than that, because then she gave me a job in the campus library. And she put in my hand A Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. She said, I want you to read this.
Yes, yes, yes. The difference it makes when you go to a Black university at HBCU. All the things that I'd been trying to teach Christy about Black history, about her Blackness, she kind of scoffed it off until she got on that campus. It was completely different. She embraced her Black history. Yeah. She saw teachers and professors who looked like her. Yeah. She saw students her colleagues, her sorors
Mm-hmm.
that looked like her. It just made a complete difference in her education.
Central State was so transforming for me. This is how transforming it was for me. My professor at Central State was the one that told me to look into the story of Crispus Attucks High School. Here I am, born and raised in Indianapolis. I didn't even know the story. Probably the most consequential Black story of education in our city, about how those teachers there,
that's right,
were PhDs
that's
and
right.
masters and couldn't even. Again, I was born and raised in Indianapolis. I didn't even know that story. It took somebody not even from the city, but knew that story, which then pushed me to say, I need to learn more about the Black history of our city. I didn't even know that Indiana Avenue at the time of the Harlem Renaissance was a place where, you're right. So these are all the things that my university taught me about the own city I grew up in.
I know it. I know it. That you talk about Crispus Attucks. Now, don't get me started on Crispus Attucks High School that opened as an instrument of racism.
That part.
Because the school board members were all Ku Klux Klan members.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided, well, we're going to build a high school for them because we don't want our white high schoolers going to school with these Black people. So it was an instrument of racism. It was programmed to fail, and it did the very, very opposite because they had professors, as I call them, teachers who believed in them, who would, and a lot of people associate sports with Crispus Attucks. They should associate educational excellence with Crispus Attucks because Oscar Robertson or none of the other players would have been on that basketball floor or that football, unless their grades were way up here.
Absolutely.
They did not play. I just wish we need the same kind of mentality that was in Crispus Attucks in all our schools now.
And you know, Dr. Payne, we're going to get there. I want to ask you this, though. When we think about the impact of Black leadership, we kind of talked about it, right? But we talked about how Black leadership transformed our community. I was told, again, by the same professor, she told me, she said, you know, when Black society was thriving, that the stalwarts in the community, they were two things. They were the preachers or they were the teachers.
Yeah.
Those are the most respected people in the Black community. It was the preacher or the teacher, right? And so I want to ask you, like, how have you seen when we have true Black excellence? And you even talked about it, right? You got Dr. Johnson now at IPS, Dr. Smith in Lawrence Township, Dr. Wilson in Washington. How have you seen Black leadership truly transform our community?
I want to go back to what you said about the preachers and the teachers. I'm telling you, you better be doing what you're supposed to be doing in school. Because the teachers and the preachers knew your parents. They lived right in the same neighborhood. They shopped at the same stores. So if you were acting crazy now, your parent would hear about it. You did not embarrass the neighborhood.
No, you didn't.
That same kind of mentality is no longer there. And it is sorely needed, sorely needed. I want to recommend two resources. One is called Polite Protests. Polite Protests. And let me get the political economy of race in Indianapolis, 1920 to
Richard Pierce, right? Is that Richard Pierce?
Right.
Pierce,
I want you to read that book. It tells a story. It tells a story about the racism, about why Indianapolis is called Naptown, because we were just slow to move. Read that book. And another resource is the DVD that was done by Ted Green on the story of Crispus Attucks, the school that opened a city, because that'll give you a lot of information, not just about Crispus Attucks, but about the environment that created a Crispus Attucks in the whole state of Indiana.
I cited that in my dissertation, Dr. Payne.
Ah,
A whole section around it when I was talking about how do we get more Black elementary teachers, and I was kind of telling this evolution. I used that, right? What we just talked about. It's an amazing DVD, and I recommend it for any Hoosier, anybody
right.
that's born and raised that love the city. I definitely second that.
They need to know about that. It tells us about people like Attorney Henry Richardson, Attorney Faye Williams, Attorney Grant Hawkins. They were fighters, I'm telling you, for what was equal, what was just in Indianapolis. And they had people pushing them back, but that didn't stop them. They kept moving forward because with the children, with the education of Black children in mind. And this dealt with Unigov and all those forces that have been working against us and are still working against us. That's why we need strong people, strong educators, strong people in our schools who can teach our children the truth about what is going on. And the thing, while we have people in the Oval Office who are trying to hide our history, who are trying to bury our history, the thing is, white children need this information too. White children need to be taught the truth, just like our Black and brown children.
Absolutely.
Because if they don't know the truth, they don't know how to make sense of their world. We got to be in it if they are going to make sense of their world.
We tell folks Black history is the history of this country.
That's it. And they can hide it. They can bury it like they're trying to do. Truth will always rise.
Always rise.
It will always rise. Just like when I was in Kemet, they tried to bury a lot of the truth there. But from time to time, you hear about these giant statues rising up. The foot will come up out of the water or something will come up from the sand. The truth always rises.
Always rises. So Dr. Payne, you spent your entire career in IPS, right?
63 years.
63 years in IPS.
Yes. I've had opportunities.
Folks that know, while you have definitely worked in IPS that long, you are somebody that has seen all the transition of the city, like you said, from Unigov and how that all happened, how we went, all those things, right?
How IU raped Indiana Avenue. Indiana Avenue used to be the Mecca of Black life. It was the Mecca of Black life. Not just the clubs, but there was a Black casket company there. The Indianapolis Recorder
was there.
Used to be there. Cleaners, all kinds of businesses were thriving there.
Black neighborhoods.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. In fact, I was born right over on California Street, 935 California Street, right over there behind the Walker Theater. And now that is the only thing that is still there. And I don't know if the Black community even owns it now.
There you go.
It's very, very sad. It's very sad. Now I'm told that they are finally teaching this, the truth in the classes. But look, the community has still been raped.
Yes. I encourage anybody, but particularly young educators like me, if you ever get a chance, if you ever need something to do, go down to the Central Library, look for the books and the resources to tell you the story. When I was doing my dissertation, I was trying to find research about the city. I learned so much about Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And that I didn't even know.
I know it. And you better hurry up because they're trying to remove all of that truth.
Trying to get rid of it.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, Dr. Payne, when you think, and again, you've been doing this work for a long time at a high level, but and we all know that you face your fair share of challenges. How have you been able to overcome it? And as you mentioned, because in 63 years, you've seen a lot, the good, bad, the ugly, the real ugly. have you been able to not allow the ugly and the trials to keep you down and keep you going? What how have you been able to overcome some of those unique challenges you face?
Well, first of all, I believe in prayer big time.
Amen.
I mean, I really believe in prayer. And I have people in the community that I trust and who I go to. My pastor, people like Billy Barrow. I don't know if you know her or not, but you have to have people that you trust. And I'm telling you, I probably only got a handful of people that I really, really trust and that I know that I can go to when things are hitting me hard. But really, what we really need to be looking at is what they are trying to do here and now in terms of getting rid of anything that has Black on it. And make sure, I want you all to make sure every time you write the word Black, and if it's talking about us, you make sure it starts with a capital letter.
Capital B.
That's just a little thing, but it's very, very important. We have got to fight. Listen, our ancestors have been through this. So we have to look at the lessons that they taught us, because this battle is not for the faint of heart. I'm telling you, we have to come together. We can't be doing this over here and that over here, or no, I'm not going to join with you. That's my turf. I don't want to bring it. There is no time for that foolishness. We have got to come together and plan and be very serious and understand exactly what they are trying to really erase us out of history. Now, we know it's not going to happen. Here's what I tell people. I tell them that this, what I see going on now, is a battle between good and evil. And we'll eventually win, but we're going to have to go through some unspeakable things before that win comes. And that is why we have got to come together in organizations like in NAPSI, in art, in Soror, the Divine Nine. It's got to be more than just going to meetings. This is serious. And we have to, it's time for us to just stop and look at what they are trying to do. And it's already begun. It's already begun.
Dr. Payne, as a career educator and someone who has been doing the work and still doing the work, and I think about like where I am right now, right? And I tell you, you said it in your opening. We set it off before we got live here, just about this is not for the faint of heart. And I think the one thing that I always stick to, I mentioned y'all, Dr. Bailey at Central State, she put James Baldwin in my hand, and one quote that always sticks to me when I think about this work as an educator, as a school principal in this space, is that when you said we can't be fighting over turf and fighting over this, because at the end of the day, Baldwin said, "For these are all of our children, and we will profit or fall for what they become."
Exactly.
And so it can't be these is your kids, these is my kids.
That's right.
These is all of our kids. But you know, Dr. Payne, I tell you, and you know this, and because you see it, my generation at times, I worry though, because I worry that it's going to be our time to pick up the baton and run our leg of the race. And I don't know if there's a lot of us that are going to run our leg
up to the challenge. Well, they will be obliterated. They will be gone. You say, be gone if you are not up to it.
But that's scary, because when I think about your generation, who, like you said, are the ancestors before you who ran their race and you ran your race, and now it's our turn. If we don't run our race, what does that say to the future? If we don't keep it going, then it will allow for those powers to erase our history if we're not fighting.
Exactly. It is just so critical that the brilliance that our children bring with them to the classroom every day. So many times it is ignored. So many times I have seen educators who feel challenged by the brilliance that our children have. You know why? Because it goes against what their belief system tells them Black children are supposed to be like. You see, low expectations. We have better be on the job against this. Our children need to be thriving, not just surviving. They need to be thriving in school. And we and our parents have to make sure that that happens. We can't do it alone.
And it's our job as the educators in the school to make sure we're partnering with the parents.
Yes. Yes. I mean, when I was teaching second grade, that would be the first thing I would tell my parents. I can't do this without you. Of course, times are different now because I was at the house banging on the door. Didn't stop me one bit. Or there would be, I remember, a white parent. This was later on when we were able to start teaching white students. I got a whole story about that too. But I would tell them, listen, come on. You have got to be with us because I can't do without you. But this parent came and said, my child is not going to ever learn any white history because all you teach is Black history. I said, come with me. I would always bring them right on in and show them the textbooks. I said, this is a chapter on George Washington, and just take them through all the white people that I said, this doesn't mean we aren't going to teach what's here, but we are also going to add to what's there so we can show children the whole story.
The whole story. And like I said, that's a whole nother conversation about not teaching kids the whole story and giving So Dr. Payne, before I let you go, I think the biggest thing, and this is, selfishly for me and a few of my friends, and we talked about it, they was like, you got Dr. Payne on? I said, yes. And I said, she's going to talk to us. So in this third segment, A Vision for the Future, here's your opportunity to talk to folks like me and other educators that are listening. What is Dr. Payne's vision for the next generation of Black leaders?
I want to read you this vision. This is the IPS vision that we have for our children. And it says to reimagine an IPS where student academic outcomes cannot be predicted by race and ethnicity. There's more to it, but I'm going to stop right there. What is up when you know who's going to be at the bottom even before the test is given? Okay. To reimagine an IPS. And so we should be saying to reimagine with Black children when the academic outcomes cannot be predicted by race and ethnicity. This has been going on, since 1619, since we were enslaved and brought over here through the laws, the policies that have been put on the books. Those same laws and policies are no longer there, but the residue is still there. Plus, they've already started new laws and policies. And look at what's coming down the pike now. And it doesn't matter if it's a Black newborn baby or an elder, my age. It doesn't matter. The Black skin is what matters. And we are not valued. So blue, they want to get rid of us again. Ooh. We better come together. They are not playing at all.
You said something about coming together, right?
Yes.
With everything that's going on, and Dr. Payne, that's a whole nother topic for us to get into with this legislation. We're not going to go to.
Oh, Lord. 1136, yes.
But I want to, how can individuals and communities, right, come together to contribute to that excellence you spoke about in that vision?
We need to start having some serious. First of all, the churches should never be empty during the week. We have got to be teaching our own children. We should not be leaving it up to the enemy. We need to be in it. If it's not a church, they used to have storefronts where our children, where people from the community, parents were in there teaching children their Black history, teaching children how to add and subtract, teaching them how to spell. There's a book by Lisa Delpit. It is called Multiplication is for White People Only, because that's what a lot of our Black children think. I can't do multiplication. Only white people can do that. We need to be in these churches on Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, teaching, having classes. Free classes to teach them their Black history and how great their ancestors are and how great they are. They don't know this, but you can't teach what you don't know.
There it is.
So that means we've got to learn it so we can teach it to them.
That's it. We can't teach what we don't know.
That's
and I think if you don't know, we got to ask. We got to find individuals like you and others who can help us learn this. I say that to Black educators all the time. It's like, we got to learn our history too. Because we're the ones standing in front of the babies, right? We're the ones that standing in front of them. We're the ones.
That's right.
Yep.
I wish you could come in my office. They think my office is the museum. It is not. It is just so full of books and memorabilia and paintings and it's all Black history, all Black history. We should surround our children with this. They should wake up to something Black on their walls.
Yeah, they should.
Not the 3 little pigs at all. No, they should have pictures of Black heroes and sheroes that they wake up to.
Yeah, and and this is my challenge. I'm talking to myself. If you are a Black principal leading a school predominantly Black students, if some of the first faces that your students, the first face your students should see on the walls is those of Black leaders and Black people. And not just in February when we do our door decorating competition. And I love to do door decorating competition. Don't get me wrong.
You can still do it.
You can still do it. But you need to have those bulletin boards and those portraits that stay up all year. Year round. That's right. They got to be immersed in Blackness. They should be immersed in Blackness. The hallways should be named after Black individuals. Right. So when you say a new student come and they're trying to get to the cafeteria, just take Charles Drew hallway, right, straight down to Madam C.J. Walker, and the cafeteria will be right there by Benjamin Banneker. Or let's put Pharaoh Hatshepsut. They have to understand that our history didn't start on a plantation in America. Our history, and if you come to that museum, the first thing you see is a pyramid going up. Because we want children and adults to understand. Our history didn't start here. Our history didn't start on a plantation. Our history started with the kings, the queens of Africa who built. Why would we want to come here? We had everything go. We had our kingdoms. We had civilizations. We knew what we were doing. They knew what they were doing too when they came over there and enslaved us so we could come here and do what we've been doing. Yeah. You know what that HBCU education told us that far too often we think Black history started after slavery, when until slavery interrupted Black history and then we just picked it back up. Like you said, there was Black history long before they brought us over here. When they enslaved us, right, when they took us from our homes, and brought us over here, it was just a minor interruption. And as we do, because as we tell kids, when things get hard in life, you come from resilient people. That's right. That's right. So just like what the blood through our veins is, we were resilient enough that we then, when we got over here, we just picked it right on back up.
There you go. See this button I'm wearing? It says resist.
That part.
With fists going up.
Always. I used to tell my kids, there's two types of fists. There's this fist, and then it's a strong, straight arm fist.
Yes.
You need to operate in the space where that arm is straight up.
Exactly.
And that's the power. Absolutely.
And be proud of it. Be proud of it. Be
with a
proud. I wear red, black, and green all year long, not just in February.
All the time. I'm good for a shirt with some quote on it. I tell you.
Yes. Oh yes. Oh yes.
So
you know what? Let me just say very quickly. We've got a summit, an equity summit. You know they're gonna try to get rid of that word. We have an equity summit coming up March the 15th.
March 15th. Okay.
And everybody you don't have to pay a penny. It's just on a Saturday, but it'll be worth the knowledge. We have Paul Gorski, who will be one of our speakers, and we also have Dr. Rich Milner. You need to come and hear. And then you have the workshops also. So we are inviting you to join us, and you can bring. We have space for young people also. We will have workshops going on for high schoolers. So you can bring them.
You got to get this on our website. You said it's March 15th. Where's it at?
It's at Martin University.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And we definitely, we definitely got to make sure we continue to show up and support events at Martin University, because unfortunately, there's some other folks in other parts of our state that elected a governor that wanted to.
The first things he wanted to do. I'm on the board of Martin University too. One of the first things he wanted to do was get rid of this blackness. And
well, we can't let him.
A point of pride for the state.
What do we? I mean, this entire is about the legacy of and celebrating, right? Black excellence and beyond, right? It's not just beyond. And my push has always been is that all we are here is to run our leg of the race and to make sure that when we pass the baton off to the next generation, that we give it to them in a space where they can do the same.
Exactly. Very simple.
Very simple.
That's what we're here for.
Dr. Payne, I want to say thank you again for this. This has been absolutely great. Is there anything before we go you want to leave the folks with? Anything? You've been dropping the whole time. What else you got for us?
I got this poem, but it's so long I can't read the whole thing, but I want to read.
Give us some of it. Let me give you the solo screen. Give us some of it.
This poem was written by Dr. Margaret Burroughs, who founded the DuSable Museum. And the name of it is What Shall I Tell My Children Who Are Black? And it says, what shall I tell my children who are Black of what it means to be a captive in this dark skin? What shall I tell my dear ones, fruit of my womb, of how beautiful they are, when everywhere they turn, there is the abhorrence of everything that is Black? Villains are Black with black hearts. A black cow gives no milk. A black hen lays no eggs. Bad news comes bordered in black. Black is evil and evil is Black. And devil's food is also Black. What shall I tell my dear ones, raised in a white world, a place where white has been made to represent all that is good and pure and fine and decent, where clouds are white and dials and heaven surely is white, white place where angels are robed in white, and cotton candy and ice cream and dream houses and long sleek Cadillacs, and angels' food is white. All white. What can I say therefore? When my child comes home in tears because a playmate has called him Black, big-lipped, flat-nosed, and nappy-headed. What will he think when I dry his tears and whisper, yes, that's true, but no less beautiful, my dear? How shall I lift up her head, get her to square her shoulders, look her adversaries in the eye, confident of the knowledge of her worth, serene under her sable skin, and proud of her own beauty? What can I do to give her strength, that she may come through life's adversities as a whole human being, warped, unwarped, and human in a world of biased laws and inhuman practices? She must survive. They must survive. They must survive, because perhaps this Black child here might have the cure for cancer, or bears the genius to chart the course for the exploration of the universe. I got to move to this book now. What can I do to give them strength? All right. I have drunk deeply of late from the fountain of my Black culture, sat at the shoulders of Mother Africa, who discovered the truth of my heritage, the truth so often obscured and omitted. And I find that I have much to say to my Black children. I will lift their heads up in proud Blackness with the story of their fathers and their fathers' fathers. And I'll take them way back in time, to the time of the kings and queens who ruled the Nile and measured the stars and discovered the laws of mathematics. Yes, we did all of this. Upon whose backs have been built the wealth of continents. And I will tell them this, and I'll tell them more, and his heritage shall be their weapon and their honor. And his heritage will always make him strong enough to win any battle they may face. And since this story is often obscured, we must find it. We must find it for our children and sacrifice to make sure we find it. We clothe them, we shelter them. So this we must do for them. If we love them, none will do it for us. We must find the truth of heritage for ourselves and pass it on to them. In years to come, I believe, because we have armed them with the truth, my children and their children's children will venerate me, for it is truth that will set us free.
And with that, we want to thank everybody for joining us. This has been Legacy of Leadership, Celebrating Black Excellence in Education and Beyond. Again, we were joined by Dr. Pat Payne. Dr. Payne and I both represent as board members of the newly relaunched Indiana Alliance of Black School Educators. We are encouraging all Black educators in the state of Indiana, whether you are in Fort Wayne or in Gary or in South Bend, Indianapolis, Evansville, wherever it is. We do have affiliate chapters right now that have launched in Fort Wayne. We have affiliate chapter that has launched in South Bend. We have one that's launched here in Indianapolis at Lawrence Township. We're currently working on IPS and Washington Township, but we would encourage you, visit our website at inasp.org, click on membership, pay the $50. You'll get a lot more. This is just the first of many things we're going to do in 2025 and beyond. And who knows? Dr. Payne mentioned it. The national conference was in Indianapolis at one point. Right. Who knows? The way our chapter's going, it could be back, but we definitely want to, because as Dr. Payne mentioned, in order for us to collectively fight against those that are trying to wipe us out, we need an organization of like-minded individuals. That's what INASP is about. Please make sure you visit us. Those on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at INASP_Indiana. Same thing with Instagram. Like us on Facebook, like us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and all those great things. This has been the first of what I think will be many of these conversations, because we mentioned, just because Black History Month is in February doesn't mean in March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and January, iNASP will bring in plenty of things that is Black excellence. So, Dr. Payne, I thank you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You guys have a good evening.